Hi, everybody. It's lovely to have you guys all online. I know that I can't see you, but you're there. So, Tansei and Tatawao, Gamamak Nitsigason, Mackenzie Brown, Nitsigason. So, hello, my name is Mackenzie, and I'm going to be doing this presentation today. Before we continue, I would just like to acknowledge that I'm on Treaty 6 territory right now. I'm in our office in Edmonton, and this territory has been home for many, many people, many different groups and Indigenous tribes for time immemorial. And we would like to acknowledge the land that we stand on today. And and that it's been a land where we have been growing and sharing and being safe and taking care of one another for many years. So we're going to continue to do that. And so welcome everybody. So I'm sure you guys can all see my screen right now, but that's a photo of me. So my name is Mackenzie, and I'm the project manager with Indigenous Tourism Alberta. So I'm going to be presenting today, and if at any point in time people have any questions, you can always email us. We'll be having our email at the end of the presentation, or again, you can ask during the question and answer box as well. So I guess to get started, this webinar is on post-COVID-19 reopening, general tips and best practices in terms of health and safety. So as everybody knows right now, we are not post-COVID. We're very much still in COVID, but a lot of things are starting to reopen. So when you look at where we are in the timeline, actually starting today, we're going into stage 2 of reopening. And so that means, you know, we have businesses such as wellness businesses. We have, we already had different campgrounds opening, but then some of those restrictions are lifting a little bit. We are seeing we're able to have more than 15 people indoors. Now it's up to 50, and groups of 100 people can gather outside. So we're starting to see a couple things lifting up. So that actually starts today, and that includes gyms, it includes wellness places, a whole list of different places that are currently reopening. But so as things reopen, we need to obviously look at our different safety and health guidelines. So we're going to take you through a couple of those, because sometimes it can be difficult to know exactly what to do. And part of alleviating the stress of your employees as well as guests in the tourism industry is ensuring that they are going to be safe and that they are going to be taken care of when they're at your experience, your restaurant, your hotel, or in your shop. So we're going to take you guys through a couple of those guidelines today and some best practices moving forward. So you might be looking at this thinking, oh my God, we're going into stage 2. But by the end of this presentation, you will be feeling like this, hopefully. So we'll get started here. So I wanted to talk a little bit first off on how COVID-19 is spread. So it is spread through droplets, and that's why we see social distancing happening, because those droplets, when somebody coughs or somebody sneezes, they get smaller the further away that you are. So that's why there are different sanitation practices in place right now, social distancing, and that's all to try to mitigate and make sure that the spread of COVID doesn't continue. So that's how it's being spread right now. It's a virus. But when we talk about COVID-19 and bringing people back into the workplace, one of the very first things that is really important is communication. Communication with your employees and having that two-way system of communication. So when you're thinking about reopening and restarting, kind of send out an email and talk to your employees and see how they're feeling about that. Some people might want to come back. Some people might be very hesitant to come back, and that's just the world that we're living in right now. In terms of communication, it's really, really important that we encourage our workers and our volunteers to remain up to date with developments related to COVID-19. You know, the health ministers are coming, they do public addresses, same with Justin Trudeau every day. So making sure that people are up to date on different regulations, and if they're not, engaging in a conversation to help them have those, to like further understand what's going on right now. It's also really important during this time that we're mindful of mental health considerations for our workers and volunteers. This is a really tough time. Social distancing has made it really difficult for some people. You know, being in quarantine has made it really difficult for some people. So just being aware of the mental health of your employees is really important. We also want to ensure that employees and patrons are aware that the Chief Medical Officer of Health requires individuals who have traveled outside of Canada to isolate for a minimum of 14 days. As well, if people are starting to show any symptoms, it's recommended that if they have any symptoms of COVID-19, a cough, shortness of breath, a fever, runny nose, that they self-isolate for 10 days is the recommendation from the government of Alberta as well. Just because, you know, it might be COVID, it might not be. And if it's not, maybe it's just the common cold, but we still don't want to be spreading that around right now. So just make sure that your employees and your volunteers are aware of that, and that if they have traveled outside of Canada, which I hope they haven't, but if they have, for any kind of reason, they have to isolate for a minimum of 14 days. It's also really important to notify your workers and your volunteers of the steps being taken by the workplace to present the risk of transmission of infection and the importance of their roles during these measures. So making sure that your employees actually know the different steps that you guys are putting into your business will be really important. You don't want one employee thinking like one thing is okay and then the other thinking that another thing is okay. You have to make sure that everybody's on the same page, whether it's with sanitation, whether it's with cleaning, with social distancing, the amount of people allowed into a store. You know, you want to make sure that everybody understands those rules and is very solid on them. In order to help with communication, the government of Alberta has put out a couple different posters. And we're recommending to businesses that you post these posters in areas where workers and volunteers can refer to them. They have different posters of help stopping the spread. They have different posters of how to properly cover a cough. But we will link out to them at the end of the presentation. And there's a variety of posters that we do recommend people take and that they post in their workplace to help out with that communication further. Okay, we're going to talk about sick workers and volunteers. So this is really important that you must encourage workers with any symptoms such as a cough, fever, shortness of breath, runny nose, or sore throat to complete a self-assessment and get a COVID-19 testing if indicated. And if a worker or volunteer does come to work and they become sick while they're at work, or they come to work sick, it's really important that you send them home and that they should begin self-isolating immediately. And then that's also when you can encourage them to take the self-assessment questionnaire, and you can just find that on the Government of Alberta's website, and people can go through the self-questionnaire, and if it is recommended that they get a testing, then encouraging them to go and get tested. So any symptomatic employees or volunteers that end up coming into your workplace, they should follow hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette, maintain a minimum of at least 2 meters away from other employees while they're leaving the premises, but they should not stay at work. They should be sent home to take care of themselves and to ensure that, you know, that if they do have COVID, that it's not being spread around. If the employee doesn't have their own transportation, we do encourage management to support them in arranging transportation home when needed. And that's because symptomatic or sick individuals, they're not allowed to take public transportation under the CMOH Order 05/2020. So we're encouraging management to help an employee who is sick or who ends up showing symptoms during the work time to make sure that they have a safe way to get back home. Once the sick individual has left the workplace, clean and disinfect all surfaces and areas that they might have come into contact with. We recommend the wipe twice, wiping down with a cleaning agent, and then disinfecting on top of that. And the employer should immediately record the names of all close contacts of the sick worker that they've been in contact with that day and in the 48 hours prior to when the symptoms started in that case. This information may be necessary if sick workers later test positive for COVID-19. So the thing with COVID-19 is there is an incubation period of about 14 days. So if somebody starts showing symptoms, they may have been asymptomatic prior to that. So it's important to look at who they came in contact with 48 hours prior to them becoming sick or showing symptoms. And if they end up testing positive, it's very important to notify the other people because they might be sick as well. Okay, screening. We are recommending that employers should consider implementing daily screening to workers, volunteers, and patrons. And that's for symptoms of fever, sore throat, cough, runny nose, or difficulty breathing. Anybody who, while you're doing this active daily screening, if anybody does show those symptoms, they should not be in the workplace. They should be sent home to monitor their symptoms and make sure that they're okay. We're seeing, there are a lot of different questionnaires, and we have linked out to a questionnaire as well, and you can find it on the Government of Alberta's website, of a screening questionnaire that you can ask people when they come into the workplace. And they're pretty simple. You just stop the person for a second, get them to sanitize, and then you go through the different questions. And if there's any reason to think that there's something off, then we recommend sending them home so that they can monitor their symptoms, and then if they continue to take a self-assessment and then go get tested for COVID. This one's really important. All of this is important, but this one's very, very important. We recommend that management and businesses right now really have a high emphasis on hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette. We recommend that management promotes and facilitates frequent and proper hand hygiene for employees and volunteers. It's recommended that businesses provide a means to sanitize their hands at points of entries and locations throughout the business where people or workers are known to handle different goods. So I've been to a couple businesses lately where you'll be walking through their area and they will have different sanitation areas, and that we're recommending that. That's really important. Employees should also make an effort to encourage respiratory etiquette. So that is coughing or sneezing into a bent elbow, just like the person is doing on the slide. And then if you sneeze into a used tissue, to then put that into the lined garbage. Again, the Government of Alberta has different posters that you can put up, and some of the posters are how to properly wash your hands, how to properly have respiratory etiquette. And we're also seeing businesses encouraging using masks. And this is a way that you can get kind of creative if you want. I've seen a couple of restaurants where everybody has the same mask or they have their logos printed on their masks. But this also further helps reduce the spread of COVID-19 in the workplace and for guests that might be coming to your businesses. Cleaning and disinfecting. So we recommend using the wipe twice method to clean and disinfect. So this is wiping surfaces with a cleaning agent to clean off soil and then wiping again with a disinfectant. We are also recommending that businesses develop and implement procedures for increasing the frequency of cleaning and disinfecting high traffic areas, common areas, public washrooms, and shower facilities. We also recommend that you frequently clean and disinfect high touch and shared surface areas. These include doorknobs, light switches, toilet handles, faucets, taps, elevator buttons, phones, computers, remote controls. We touch a lot of things in the business place, and especially if you have a tourism business where people might be a little bit more hands-on. Maybe you have a museum. Maybe you take that area and you don't allow touching at the moment, or you make sure to frequently disinfect them before and after people go through that area. We also suggest removing any communal items that can't be easily cleaned. So this is newspapers, magazines, and stuffed toys. So make sure that those are out of the workplace area or the experience area. So distancing and gathering in the workplace. So as you can see, CMOH Order 07/2020, they prohibit gatherings of more than 15 people in an indoor location. This has changed as of today. Now, today you can have a maximum of 50 people indoors. However, this still doesn't prohibit businesses from having more than 50 workers in the workplace. So that's a bit of a change that happened just today. So examples of how you can support distancing between workers, volunteers, and patrons to reduce the risk of transmission amongst workers, volunteers, and patrons include maintaining a 2-meter separation between individuals is preferred in any business. So I put up this cute sign that says, in Cree, it says, "Stay 2 beavers apart from one another," which is about 2 meters of distance. So you can get creative with your signage. We also recommend that there is areas where people can disinfect, again, those sanitations upon entrance, and then in high touch areas in different locations throughout the business. We also recommend that maybe your store has an occupancy if you have a store. So we're seeing people and businesses only allowing 10 people in the store at once. I just was out at Métis Crossing, actually. We were piloting their up and coming experience for the summer with social distancing included in it. And so what they did was, before we went into different trappers tents, only one person was able to enter the trappers tent at once. So these are easy ways that you can encourage distancing amongst visitors as well as employees too. We also recommend directing traffic flow within the businesses. So those one-way shopping aisles, I'm sure that you've seen in grocery stores. I've also seen them in different convenience stores. I've seen them in gas stations. So it's an easy way of directing people so that they're not getting too close, they're not passing one another, but that they're all flowing in a one-way traffic. In terms of in the workplace, we also recommend that you have distance and separation between desks and workstations. A way that I've seen this in tourism is yesterday when we were at Métis Crossing, we were doing a craft, but everybody's craft stations were set up in distance, and the people hadn't touched the craft materials prior. So that's another way that we're seeing it being implemented in tourism experiences for the separation. We also recommend that any non-essential gatherings are limited or restricted. You know, I think we've all seen the power of Zoom and the power of online meetings. So if you don't have to meet in person, we're recommending that you don't. I know we all love to see one another in person, but it is a lot safer to just meet through Zoom. We also recommend putting a barrier, creating a barrier between you and guests. We're seeing this lots if you go to the grocery stores, they have those barriers up now. If you go to a convenience store, they have those barriers up, even restaurants. So we recommend that if businesses can, that they set up those physical barriers. And then lastly, to support distancing between workers and volunteers to reduce the risk of transmission, we recommend limiting hours of operation or setting specific hours for at-risk patrons. So we're seeing some people are coming into work from this time to this time, and then the next employee will come in the afternoon. Or limiting the hours of operations. Some businesses have done that too, where they're only open from 10 to 2, for example. So whatever works best for your business, we recommend trying to do that as well. We also recommend implementing contact-free modes of patron interactions, such as home delivery of goods or curbside pickup of items. So a way that I've seen this being implemented in tourism right now is Reskilled Life. She's doing virtual experiences right now, but for anybody who doesn't have materials to make moccasins or beadwork, what she's been doing is she will go and drop off the materials for you using contact-free delivery. So that's a really good way of seeing that. Or right now, a couple different restaurants, Indigenous restaurants, are doing curbside pickups or again home delivery of goods. So it's a really good idea to do that. We also recommend placement of reference markers to set out 2-meter distances. So we've seen people, spray paint circles on the floor where people will stand, or having lines drawn. You can get a little bit creative with this as well, depending on your business, and include fun signage or something like that. Okay, so posters for your business. I know that I've talked about this before, but these are some of the different posters that you can get, and they're all available on the Government of Alberta's website for download. And they're good to remind workers and volunteers and patrons to practice respiratory etiquette, hand hygiene, physical distancing. It helps visitors to remember that, if they have any symptoms, that they shouldn't be coming into your business. They're good visual cues for a lot of businesses right now. So one thing that I wanted to include as well in this webinar is your workers' rights, because it's important that you're aware of your workers' rights and that your workers are also aware of their rights. So as a worker, you have the right to know. You have the right to know what the business is going to be implementing in terms of safety and health guidelines. They have a right to know, and that's when the communication piece comes in that we talked about at the beginning. They also have the right to participate in workplace health and safety. So in light of that, we suggest maybe having a suggestion box, having those open discussions with your employees, seeing how are you feeling? Does this feel okay? Would you recommend something else? remember, if you have employees, you all are a team, and they do have the right to participate in workplace health and safety. You could also have an anonymous tip line where they can call in. But if you do have suggestion boxes or tip lines, those must be clearly posted and communicated to your employees. And finally, workers do have the right to refuse unsafe work, and that is work that causes injury or illness. So just being aware of that too, that your worker does, if they for any reason do feel unsafe at work, they do have the right to refuse that work. So all of these different resources that I've been referring to throughout the webinar, they are all available on the Government of Alberta. The Government of Alberta also they have a template for you to create a health and safety work plan. And they also have different resources for varying different businesses, whether you're a campground or you're a casino or you're a wellness place. They have varying different worksheets and information sheets that you can download and that you can make sure that you're implementing in your work and healthy safety plan. We recommend that businesses do create a health and safety work plan. And you can find the template on the Government of Alberta's website. And Alberta Biz Connect is really great for supporting businesses and not-for-profits to reopen and resume operations safely. They also have a contact line that if you need to call and ask them any questions, that you can do that as well. Okay, so that actually brings me to the end of this particular webinar. What I would love to do is, if anybody has any questions, again, you can go up to the top of your screen, or it might be on the bottom of your screen, and you can press the question and answer box. Please feel free to ask me any questions. If you don't have any questions at the time, and I'll give a couple minutes for that, then you can always reach out to us at info@indigenoustourisamalberta.ca. We also have various information on our website at indigenoustourisamalberta.ca right now, where we speak on all of this information in a bit more detail, and we also have some more different resources too. So please utilize our website in that way to make sure that you're getting all of your information. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions as of yet popping up. So that does bring me to the end of the webinar, and I invite you guys to reach out if you have any further questions. Again, this session has been recorded, and it will be on our indigenoustourisamalberta.ca website too, along with other resources that you can reach. So I would like to thank everybody who was able to attend today, and I hope that you guys have a really great weekend. And if you ever need any help implementing some of these guidelines and don't know where to start, please feel free to reach out to us. We are here as a resource and here to help you as you restart and reopen your business in the tourism industry. So thank you so much, Kinana Skumtin, and I hope everybody has a really fantastic weekend.